So I'm going to break down a lot in this video, and I really want you to listen. What do you do if you're being falsely accused of child abuse, domestic violence, sexual abuse, or any of these common things that happen in divorce and custody? We're going to talk about that and how false claims are used as a weapon in parental alienation. I'm going to break down your mentality right now and how that needs to change. I'm going to tell you how to take action on it so that you can stop this immediately. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen if you don't take action on it. But I'm also going to tell you how to solve that. What actions you can take right now to stop it, because you need to stop it if it has even started this much. And because there's a lot to this video, it's a long one, I want you to look down below, because in the show notes, there's different timestamps of where you may exactly need to go or rewatch or repeat, all those different things. And I want you to understand this because this is something I understand almost better than anybody. Yes, this is for you. This is to protect you. But if you don't do this for your kids that are being convinced by a mother, grandparents, whoever it is, that you are a bad person, that you hurt them when you didn't, they are subject to some of the worst abuse that you can even imagine. Yes, this could ruin your reputation. It could make you lose your job. It could wreck you as a man. I know men who have killed themselves because they've been accused of this. They never recover. But your children will be worse. If you don't do whatever it takes to stop this right now, whatever pain you feel is multiplied by 10 with them. So if this is happening to you, I want you to listen up, take some notes, and let's take this really seriously, because you got to start acting now. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Steve Maeda, and I have been a men's coach for 18 years. I've worked with men on almost everything you can imagine, but a ton on this. More importantly, from 2006 to 2012, I was falsely accused of abusing my kids, and this went into sexual abuse, this went into violence, this went into domestic violence. Now, most of the time, those were never really entertained. The police would be called, they'd just leave, CPS would get involved, they'd drop it. But in 2012, not only did CPS get involved, but the state of Texas got involved. I was criminally charged with child abuse. It went into a horrible situation. I didn't see those kids for 5 years. 8 years later, it got reversed. So I went to jail. I was titled, I was labeled, I was humiliated, I was attacked publicly for it. And then 8 years later, it was admitted to be a mistake. All those people who demonized me didn't really care. They thought, oh man, good for you. I'm not sorry I judged you because we thought you were a child abuser. Now, during that whole time, I was coaching men and working with men on this, and I became obsessed with the topic. I became obsessed with it legally. I understand the psychology that you're going through. I understand the court systems. I understand how you can beat it. Because in 2019, I was accused again.
Did you ever tell you'd never see the kids again? It's a yes or no question.
Yes.
I was scared out of my mind. I did not want it to repeat again, and I knew the damage it caused my kids. I didn't want that to happen. So man, I dominated in divorce.
Did you tell that you were going to get full custody, and if he fought you, did you tell him that you're fucked?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
And how would he be fucked? Go ahead, tell the judge. He's the one.
How he would be fucked. Mm-hmm. Well, he has a felony for child abuse.
I did exactly the advice that I tell men, and I dominated in a divorce and a custody case. So let's get started on just how serious this is and how you beat it. Not just beat it how you think you want to beat it, but entirely beat it so it doesn't happen again.
And do you know that I could go up to the courthouse while your lawyer's taking care of his other case, and I could get a temporary restraining order not allowing you to see your children for at least 14 days based on your testimony?
No, I didn't know that.
What do you think about that?
I think you're not taking into consideration the well-being of my children, and that's being vindictive.
No, I don't think you're taking into consideration the well-being of your children by using drugs around them, by using drugs while you're pregnant with them, by lying under oath today all day long. I don't think you're taking into consideration the well-being of your children, because based on your lies, you could lose your children just for the simple fact that you've been lying all day. Pass the witness.
What does it mean when you're being falsely accused of abuse, child abuse, domestic violence, any of the many things that men are so commonly accused of these days? And it's almost seen like it's not a big deal. Now, I just want to say how big of a deal this is. If you are being accused of abuse, child abuse, sexual abuse, spousal abuse, domestic violence, any of these things, and you are an innocent man, I don't want to scare you, but this is very serious and you need to act now. So I just got a call from a guy who is basically being accused of this, and he came through me through Josh Palace. He listens to the Father of Valor podcast, a podcast that I think everybody should be listening to if you're a dad. If you're a dad of any kind, you just want to better yourself, but especially if you're going through divorce and custody and wondering how difficult that could be, the Father of Valor podcast is an excellent resource for you. Josh has been in my groups for about a year and a half now, and he's doing what more men should be doing, is talking about the real solutions that come into divorce and custody, as well as being a good father. And he's giving yet another forum and platform for that. There is not enough of this. Currently on YouTube, you just have a lot of men's hysteria. You have a lot of people who just say it doesn't work, and I'm going to complain about it. You have a lot of lawyers talking about it, but they're almost not speaking to you. Anyway, there just needs to be more. Go to his channel, subscribe, all that sort of good stuff, and give it a listen. It's amazing information. So here's one of the problems when it comes down to guys who are being falsely accused of abusing their kids, domestic violence, whatever you want to call it. You think because you're innocent that you could go in front of a judge and just say that and it's going to work. And that's not how it works. And let me just break down some of the psychology for this because I went through this. I know tons of other guys in the group who've done this. I totally get it. Your ex or soon-to-be ex or whoever's accusing you of this has a long history of mental health. They've made multiple false claims. They've been proven to be wrong. They've been dropped by CPS, whatever you want to call it. And you yourself know that you haven't abused this child. You totally, absolutely, 100% get that you are innocent of this. Now, it all depends on how this case is processed, but let's say she talks to the police. The police either entertain the claims or they drop it. Now, in most cases, they drop it. In my case, the police entertained it. But in the majority of my clients' cases, they get dropped by the police, but picked up by DCFS or CPS, Child Protective Services. Now, because the police dropped it, this gives the man a false sense of confidence. He just goes, man, my chick is crazy. She's done this before. It always gets thrown out and it just gets dropped. And the police didn't even believe her, so that's good. And man, she's just crazy. This could have been terrible. And that's what the guy is thinking. This is highly problematic because this isn't what happened. And this is why the guys joined my group. Every single one of those guys who got accused of falsely abusing their kids to the point where they didn't get to see their kids for a year, 2 years, it ruined their relationship. It caused this huge thing of parental alienation. It damages the child psychologically. It damages you psychologically. And it empowers somebody who is mentally ill to get to do whatever they want, and especially to poison the brains of your children. If you can stop that, you should stop it. You would want to stop that, correct? So let's say the police don't press criminal charges, but CPS opens an investigation. That investigation then summons you for a hearing. That hearing is to determine if there needs to be a protective order. You walk into that, maybe you call a lawyer, maybe you don't. You should call a lawyer. I'm just going to tell you right now, if there is anything with DCFS or CPS, you need to hire a lawyer. You need to hire the right lawyer. You don't just call a family law attorney. You make sure that they have experience with this kind of thing, and about 90% of them don't. If this is your issue and you're getting ready for a hearing, you should join my groups immediately. It will be the best 50, 100, 65, whatever it is, amount of money. It will be the best of that you have ever spent, and it's going to save you thousands and thousands of dollars. I know I say this a lot, but you absolutely need a group that can help guide you, and sadly, mine is one of the only ones out there, and we do a good job. So you're in this, you're thinking, okay, I didn't do this, I just need to tell the judge that, everybody is going to understand that, and justice is going to be served. Now, I know a bunch of the guys who are online who are saying like the court system screw you and they only screw you and all that sort of thing. They're going to be saying like, oh, you don't have a chance in court. And you're going to get screwed because it's against men. This is not necessarily true. Now, the court systems do absolutely slide towards women, but there are ways that men can win. So if there's ways that men can win, especially in your situation, wouldn't you want to learn that? This would make total sense. Because winning means you don't get accused of crimes, you stop false accusations, you get fair custody and alimony and all that sort of stuff. And losing means you could potentially not see your kids are raised to hate you and be lied to by a mentally ill family or mother or whatever the situation is. And you lose all your money, you lose your reputation, and all that stuff gets ruined. You're preparing for this court case. You hopefully hire a good attorney. You don't just hire anybody or any family law attorney, an attorney that specializes in false accusations. They can be hard to find. Again, join my group. And you have 15 to 20 minutes in front of a judge to make your points. If you weren't aware of it, this is how hearings work. They're really short. That judge is going to see 5, 6, 7, 8 different hearings. You want to be absolutely prepared for it. If you're not prepared and you get in a fight with your ex, or you argue, or you don't really know the right formalities, you fill something out wrong, you speak out of turn, you say the wrong things, or ask something and can't easily answer the question, well, guess what happens then? You've now made the case impossible for the judge to hear. They're forced to make a reactive decision. Maybe the mother is screaming like crazy in court. Hopefully you're not screaming back at her. And the judge needs to make a reactive decision, which is going to be in the best interest of the child. All he's heard is that there is a DCFS or CPS report saying that you could have potentially abused that child, even though you know you haven't done it. But because you didn't know how to talk in court, you didn't know how to act, you didn't know how to speak, you had an attorney that was not prepared for this situation, didn't know how to argue it or fight it or fill out the paperwork properly, your judge makes a reactive decision. I'm going to tell you this right now. Anytime a judge signs something in court and it is wrong, it is not right, it is unfair, it is almost impossible for that to get unsigned. This means child support, protective orders, restraining orders, property and alimony, all the different things that come up in divorce and custody. Just think of that. If you were to know how to properly do that, and you had an attorney that was properly trained to do that, you would not get yourself in that situation. Almost every single one of the guys who get screwed over in divorce and custody screwed themselves in one of their first appearances in front of a judge where something got signed. And then it takes you 6 months, a year, 2 years to get that thing undone. And when it comes to protective orders, that's going to be 6 months minimum that you will not get to see your children. And that's not just 6 months of not seeing them, that's 6 months of them most likely being lied to about why you can't see them. At this point, it's like, who cares about justice and all this sort of stuff? Let's think about the next 20 or 40 years of trauma that needs to be undone with your children because you didn't know how to do the paperwork right or take the right advice on hiring a lawyer. I get it, man. I made the same mistake. A lot of the guys in my groups made the same mistake. But that's why we don't make the same mistake again, and that's why we are so vigilantly talking to dads about this. All right, so you're in front of the judge. It's not going too well. You don't really know what to do. You're just saying, I would never do this. I'm a good stand-up person of society, all that sort of stuff. And that's really not how you argue a court case. You're not arguing the specific accusation. You're not showing proof of not doing it. You're doing a bunch of hearsay, witness testimony, and reputation things and whatnot, and how your ex is a liar. This is just going to frustrate the judge. I totally get it. That's how you talk to your friends. That's how your friends think of you. That's how your friends see her. That's how maybe her own family sees her. But that's not how you do the case. Now, because of all of this, and because of whatever other commotion that she's probably doing, because most likely that's happening in the courtroom, the judge makes a reaction, and he signs a temporary protective order and asks for further investigation. At this point, you are screwed. If you're in the middle of a divorce, you just pretty much lost any momentum and power that you had. Your chances of getting screwed on alimony, your chances of getting screwed on property just went way up. The case is, for the most part, done. Custody, man, forget about it. And if you have multiple kids and this just happened to one of them, guess what? It just happened to both. Now let's look at the next side of it. Your reputation is completely ruined. Anybody that makes false claims, one of the psychological attributes of them, and I hope that the courts one day figure this out because it's really obvious to spot, is that person who accused you of this and made up a lie about it is going to get really loud about it. They're going to tell everybody, they're going to try and convince everybody. They're going to, of course, start with their family because their family is the easiest and they probably helped design this liar and manipulator. But they're going to be as loud as possible until everybody knows it, including your work. Once you have a protective order that says child abuse and other people start hearing about it, you will become one of the most hated people in whatever social circle community you're in. If you need a background check for your job, you will be fired. It will be really difficult for you to be hired anywhere. They're going to be so loud about it that anytime you make new friends, they're going to put stuff out on the internet that says your name and tells you that this happened. And when you try and sue or get mad about it back, the sad thing is this is now public record. You have gotten a protective order or a temporary protective order against you for domestic violence, sexual abuse, child abuse, and so on. CPS, DCFS is currently investigating you. I get it. Maybe the cops didn't entertain it, but this is a terrible thing, and you need to understand just what is on the line. So here's how you stop it. So if you're being accused of this, you have to listen up. You have to listen to what I'm saying. At the first moment of you being accused of abuse or whatever that is false, you need to start acting immediately. Meaning you have to get a lawyer and you need to start consulting with an attorney that is an expert in this. This is hard to find. You're not just going to look on Yelp, but yeah, of course you start on Yelp and look at reviews and all this sort of stuff, but start calling around. Ask initially if that attorney has experience in the courtroom arguing cases. That means going into the courtroom and going to trial on false abuse accusations. Now, here's one of the problems with that. A lot of attorneys are going to try and emotionally sell you and say, man, we're going to kick her butt, blah, 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 blah. No, you need to specifically ask, have you been to trial in the last year arguing false abuse accusations? And if not, what attorneys specialize in that? I want to know. The other thing too is it would be in your best interest to ask all attorneys what they think, because how I found my family law attorney was through a business attorney. That business attorney actually referenced him to me, and then I hired that family law attorney. It was the first time I won overwhelmingly in court. If you know my story, I've had one of the worst stories of parental alienation as well as false abuse accusations. I've been to jail for it to later have it be admitted that it was false. And then I came back to totally dominate and win when it happened again. My attorney was awesome, but that attorney in turn turned me on to all sorts of other ones. So how do you repeat that process? Well, like I said, when you're interviewing attorneys, put the pressure on them. And like I said, it would also be good to have friendships with other attorneys, like a business attorney or a tax attorney or whatever. They will be able to reference you to who is good and who actually has the good reputations instead of the false reputation. Let me give you an example of what a false reputation is. There is an Austin attorney who was amazing 10 plus years ago, and they won the high line stuff, and it was like the rich elite of Austin this person represented. They did awesome. And then they got referenced to a bunch of people. Now, fast forward 10 years later, and one of the guys comes to my group and he gets this attorney. My attorney, my friends who are attorneys all say, man, this attorney is terrible now. They basically use their old celebrity of being really good, get really lazy, they do nothing, and then they force them to settle at the end. That's exactly what happened to my client. We tried to warn him over and over and over again, and it wasn't until the very end he fired her and then had to switch an attorney, but by then all the damage was done. That's another thing. If you make too many mistakes in the legal process, you absolutely screw yourself. You don't ever want to make a mistake. You want things to go good. You need to be on top of it immediately, and especially in this situation, you need to be on top of it now. So let's review solving it. Number one, it is that you act on this right away and you hire an attorney, and you hire an attorney specific to this. This can be really, really difficult, but you have to put in the work to do it, and you have to get on top of it. Number two kind of ties into all of that because you can never be lazy about this. Do not just think that how you and your friends and people who hate her or like her or whatever determine how this is so untrue and wrong. This is not how a court case works. You need to start structuring your case, your plans of attack, defense, and all this sort of stuff on evidence, on facts, on not gossip, not on how you win arguments, convince your friends that she's insane or whatever. That does not matter in a court case. It doesn't matter at all. The only time that will matter in a court case is once you've proven definitively in the language of the courts how you did not do this. So, how do we sum that up? Stop talking to your friends and family for anything other than support. I get that you need them for support. I get that you need a lot of support. More than likely, you should join a men's group for that support. It will help you out big time, but you should not listen to your friends and family, even if some are current lawyers. Unless they are your lawyer, which they probably shouldn't be if they're your friend, stop listening to them about anything legal. Got it? Now let's go to this. Innocent until proven guilty. This is that great old saying that is going to be your third thing that you have to do now. Instead of innocent till proven guilty, you are guilty until you prove you're innocent. Does this make sense? So how do we prove that you're innocent in this case? If you're being falsely accused of abuse, domestic violence, whatever it is, there is a specific act that you are being accused of. You need to start thinking how this can be argued. Now, how they're arguing it could be involving all these different things, and you're going to need to counter their argument. But you need to start thinking, logistically, was I not there? Was this impossible? Were there witnesses the whole time, not just there that think you're a cool person and you could have never done it, but were they around the situation the whole time? Is there a problem with whoever they involved? Like if there's doctors involved, did they take the right protocol? You need to start thinking about how one determines you are guilty and how one determines you're innocent. Because if you want this stopped, you have to prove that you're innocent. And this is the most important thing. If there's any chance that you're not innocent and you can't definitively prove that in the way that the court sees it, then guess what? You have a chance and a probability that this can continue, and it will ruin your life if it does continue. Think about that. Unless you prove that you are innocent, not convince, but prove, your chances go up that this will continue, and if it does continue, it will ruin your life and your kids' lives. Now, the fourth thing in all of this is you got to get to work, and you got to get to work now. If you don't have enough money to hire a lawyer, guess what? You're going to have to make that money. Do not try and handle this yourself. If you do have to go into court yourself and you can't raise that money, man, you better bear down and learn how this works. And really think about what you're choosing there. Really think. You don't have 10 extra hours a week to get a second job. You can't do some delivery driving on the side. You can't beg your family for money. So if you can't do any of those things, and probably the many other things more that you could do to hustle up an extra $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, I'm just going to tell you, if this does continue and you screw up by representing yourself, it's going to cost you $50,000 or $60,000 minimum just to fix all those mistakes. But if because you literally can't get that extra $5,000 to help you out right now, then I would highly, highly recommend you scrape up a couple $100, join my groups for about 6 months, and listen to everything everybody says and then do it. But let's jump forward to this hard work thing, because you're going to have to work your ass off. No matter what attorney you get, if they are the best in the world and they are the most attentive, and there's so much I could say about attorneys and whatnot, and in this we kind of brushed over it, you are going to have to help out that attorney. You are going to have to do work with them. If they need to research something, help them do it. We just had a guy in our group have to argue a bunch of stuff for child support and whatnot. The absolute best thing that happened to that guy was we as a group actually helped him out in organizing all of his finances, making it look really, really good, easy to read, easy to understand. He took it to his attorney. His attorney needed about 20 minutes to look through it instead of hours and hours to do it. Could figure out the angle of what to do. His mind was freed up to come up with a strategy. He could do the strategy and make it work. I don't want to say that was the only thing that made that case awesome and stellar and work out really, really well. But I'll tell you this, if you overwhelm your attorney, you don't know how to do extra work, they're always doing work for you, it's really easy for them to forget about you, to not want to be bothered by you, all these different things. So you want to be able to do that work and organize it. This is also really, really hard when you're emotionally fueled, which is why a men's group is really necessary. But let me also say this, is that if you are being accused of false child abuse, you need to stop this case immediately. You need to stop it right now. If there is a hearing involved, it should stop at that hearing. And if you can pay $5,000, $7,000, whatever it is right now to stop it, then you're going to save yourself $50,000. You're going to save yourself and your kids a ton of trauma. And you're going to have one more barrier in front of somebody who's that mentally unstable to make up a lie about child abuse, which is also common these days. And all that time before the hearing, you're going to have to help out your attorney and you're going to have to work. And if not, guess what? You're going to get screwed. Your reputation is going to get ruined. You're going to potentially screw up your kids' lives even more. You're going to lose your job. It's going to be impossible for you to rent an apartment. Maybe you'll have a sex offender status. It's really, really horrible. It ruins men's lives. And it's something that is sadly preventable. Very, very preventable if we handle things right legally. I get that there's probably a bunch of dads on here who've already been accused and had their lives run through the ringer. This happened to me. I understand it, and it probably happened to me worse than you. But you got to start looking at your case like I did. What did I do wrong, and how can I prevent it if it happens again? I started looking at that, and I got accused again, and I beat it. Think about that. Somebody who had a criminal charge of child abuse put on them had an attempt to put another charge on me, which you would think would be easy, and I stopped it. Not only did I stop it, but in the whole process of that, I was able to get mine reversed, or at least admitted that it was a mistake. Look, I get how screwed up this whole thing is. It is so screwed up. It is so effed up. You can stop this right now if it's starting right now, but you have to take certain steps. This upsets me so bad that I know people are going to watch this video after their lives are already turned upside down, and then they're going to come to my groups and ask for help. And we are going to help them, and we will help them, and it'll be awesome. But the whole time, we're going to know that they could have stopped this had they handled it right in the beginning. After about 6 months, they're going to see some other people come in who did take the advice that I'm giving them now, which is to handle it right when it starts. And they're going to stop it. Now, we'll all be happy for that person because they stopped it. But man, that is not a fun thing to walk around with. To know that you could have used the courts in the right way, learned how to use them properly, stop false claims, put a halt to a crazy person trying to ruin your life, and save your kids from having to unwind a lie that their mother, grandmother, grandfather, whoever told them to keep them away from one of their parents, to unwind the broken heart they have from being convinced that a part of them is something evil. That ain't easy. That ain't fun. Take my advice, take a look at my groups, and learn how to win in the legal system as a man in this modern culture. All right, I gotta get inside. The mosquitoes are going, and we'll talk to you soon.